Hello, this is part 2 in how to make a simple Pong-like clone. So, if you haven't seen part 1 already, simply go down there and click on part 1 before you continue this tutorial. So, as of right now, we haven't set up our ball to move around the screen, but we haven't yet set up our player to move around, and our ball is kind of going straight off the screen. So, in this tutorial, we'll be setting up the images to move, the ball to respawn in the middle once it hits once the ball hits bottom or top, it will respawn at the middle, and we need to make the computer as well move around. So let's get right back into Xcode. So over here, let's start off by going into our method, and we're gonna type in void close bracket, and this is going to be computer movement, and then last we're gonna do void close bracket collision. Now these two will play so the computer movement is when the computer moves around, so we'll code it to move around depending on the ball's location, and collision is the code for if anything collides with each other. So we're gonna copy and paste and put this in view controller.m and paste it underneath touches begin. So now we're gonna go over to our ball method, which is this method over here. Well, depending on what you called your method, so I called mine ball method. If you called yours differently, you might need to, your one might appear a bit different, but just simply look for the code that appears to match up. So now we're gonna simply run the two methods that we just declared. So we declared computer movement and we declared collision. So make sure those two are called in the ball method. So now that it's done, we're gonna go to our computer movement, and before we actually type anything in, I'll explain it in detail. So computer movement. If you are wondering how, for example, like how the computer moves around the screen, how it detects where the ball is, this is how it's done. So it's pretty much just a bunch of if statements and CG point make that we need to do here. So let's go and type in if computer.center.x, or whatever you called your opponent. So I called, as we go to my main storyboard, I called mine as computer. So that is why I am using that in the computer movement. So computer.x is greater than ball.center.x. So if the .x of the computer is greater than the ball, we're gonna make it move the same area. So computer.center equals CG point make computer.center.x minus 2, and then for CG float y, it's computer.center.y. Now we don't need to type anything here because we are not manipulating if it's going up or down. We're manipulating it to go left or right. And now we're gonna do the same thing. So if computer.center.x this time is less, so let me zoom in there, less than ball.center.x. So this time instead of greater than, it's less than this time. Now we want it to move the opposite direction. So you're gonna type in computer.center equals CG point make open bracket computer.center.x. Now this time instead of -2, we're gonna do +2. So it's gonna move the opposite direction. So computer.center.y, and then end that with a parentheses and a semicolon. So now what we have done is we have made our computer move left or right depending on where the ball is located at. So let's build and run, and let's see how it goes for now. So wait for that to load up. Now our computer is moving around and it is trying to detect where the ball is, but as you see, the ball kind of went straight off the screen. So we're gonna fix that problem now. The last thing we will do in this tutorial is actually make our player move around. So that's the last thing we'll be doing. So let's look for these two over here, and we are going to declare an IB outlet for these two images. So let's go to our header file, viewcontroller.h, And let's declare some IB outlets. So do IB outlet UI image view. Again, you can call this whatever you need to. You don't really have to copy exactly how I do it. But for this, I'm gonna call mine just to keep it nice and simple. Border top. And then the same thing. So UI image view, but this time for the border bottom. So we have declared an IB outlet for those two images. So let's link them up right now. So click on the top so it's highlighted blue. Go to the the sixth tab along, which is the connections inspector. Link border bottom to the border of the bottom, and border top, which is where when the ball hits the top, it will respawn all over here at the middle. So we will get the coordinates for this ball as well in a minute. So let's go back to our view controller.h, and we are now going to head over to our collision method, which is this one over here. So the collision again is if our ball hits the side of the screen, or if it hits the bottom, it will respawn at the middle like we wanted to do earlier. So for now, we'll just do if cg rect intersects rect ball.frame, and we're gonna do it with player.frame, and we will copy and paste this if statement, and this time for computer.frame. Now we don't have to do anything yet for now. We'll just leave it like that. We will add something in the middle of these if statements in the probably later in the video. But let's go right now into our ball method, and we're going to code it so that it is going to, once it hits the border bottom, it will successfully respawn at the top like we intended. So let's go over here and do if cg rect intersects rect ball.frame border top.frame, and we're gonna copy and paste the if statement with command C and paste with command V. This time replacing it with border bottom. Now what we want to do is get the coordinate for the ball. So go to main.storyboard. Then to do that, we're gonna click on the ball on the middle, so the red ball here. We're gonna click that, so just click it so there's all the boxes showing around it. We're gonna go to the ruler, which is this fifth tab, the size inspector, and we can see our X and our Y coordinates. So it is 171 by 317. So we want this to be the position where our ball respawns at whenever it hits the top or bottom of the screen. And obviously we will code the score in part 3. So go to viewcontroller.m, and we're gonna go over here and do ball.center equals cg point make open parentheses. I forgot what it was already. So 171 by 317. So go over here and do 171 by 317, just like how it's shown on your ruler. We're gonna copy that we're gonna copy the same line and put it in border bottom. So let's see how it goes right now. So click play and let's see how it goes. So we have done is we have made it successfully respawn at the center, so it doesn't go straight off the screen. So let's see for ourselves. So now, as you see, it is respawning at the middle whenever it hits the top. But as you can see, it's kind of colliding too early. So let's resize the top just a tiny bit. So this will be resized probably like that. And let's click build and run now and see how it goes. It's kind of going down for me. Alright, so obviously that will be later on. It's going down for now. So what we need to do now is we need to make sure that once the ball collides with our player, it is going to like go back up, like kind of like if you have played Pong before, you know that if we hit the ball with the rectangle, it will go up and it will go to the computer. So let's quickly code that in right now. So we're gonna go to our viewcontroller.m, and we're now gonna head over to our collision method. which is this one over here. And now in our if statements, this is the one that we had entered in before. We're gonna do y equals arc for random. We're gonna do a random number generator, %sign 5, and then with a semicolon. So the y over here is important. It has to match what you called your integer. So I called mine y and x. So you might need to change it depending on what you called your own integer. So now we're going to do y equals arc for random, e %sign 5, and we're going to do y equals 0 minus y, and with a semicolon. Now the computer.frame is going to be y equals arc for random, %sign 5. So let's try and see how our app is so far. So click play, and let's see how it goes. So we have coded it. What happens when our ball collides with a player or the computer? So let's see how it goes. So look for it to collide. Now as you see, once it hit the top, it kind of went back down. So let's see when it hits our player, if it can touch. Now as you see, it's perfect. It is hitting the computer, and the computer is hitting it to the player. Now obviously we will code in the score, so if our player misses the ball, it will obviously score for the computer. But we will do that in part 3. So now the last thing we need to do is to actually make this player over here, to actually make it move left or right, depending on where we touch the screen. So let's click stop, and let's do that right now. So over to our view controller.h, we're gonna do int, and this is gonna be player move. So now this integer plays a large role when it comes to moving the image down below. So go to our touches, where we go, touches ended, and this, if you are wondering, this code runs when the player lifts their finger off the screen. So this code runs when the player lifts their finger off the screen. That's why it's pretty self-explanatory. It says touches ended. Now we're gonna make it end by doing what do we call our integer? We called it player move. So we're gonna say player move equals 0. So once we lift our finger off the screen, it will add 0 to it will remove the value of player move so that it doesn't go straight off the screen. So go back to our view, the touches began, and this is where we are going to code quite a bunch of things. So we're going to go over here. So underneath this parentheses, not over here, because this is the parentheses for the touches began, but we want to do it outside the if statement. So space that out over here. Make sure it is very crucial that you make sure it is doing it for the if statement, because it has to be out of the if statement, but has to be inside our touches began method. So let's now do UI touch. Now assuming you got all that correctly, we'll do UI touch asterisk touch space equal space bracket touches space any object. Oop. Make sure you type in correctly, any object, close bracket, and a semicolon. So now we're gonna do CG point, and then point equals space bracket touch. Now whatever you called your UI touch, I called mine as touch, so it has to match. So UI touch, your location in view, and this is gonna say self.view, close bracket, and a semicolon. And then we're gonna do now if point.x. So it's saying with the point in the screen where it touches. Now if it is less than player.center.x, we want it to kind of move left. So do basket, or we do what was it called? Player move. Don't know why I said basket. Player move equals, now depending, mine will say -30. We can mess around with the numbers later on. It's not really it's kind of more like a trial and error process on this part. If you're programming, you will run into a lot of trial and error stuff, so you can mess around with the numbers to your liking. Now just copy and paste that, and this time we're going to add an else if. Now this is going to change to a greater than sign, and we're going to remove the negative in our number. So this is saying if pretty much this is whole if statement here is the opposite of this if statement. So if it is to the right, it will move to the right. If we tap on the left, it will move to the left. So let's go over here to let's go down here below and do if cg rect intersects rect what we called our side. So let's go to our main storyboard and let's add in two image views, which will be the left and right. So it's like the border, so that our image doesn't go straight off the screen. Like, let me demonstrate right now. So because this is important, because let me play the game and show you how it goes so far. So let me build and run, and let's quickly check it out. So we haven't done any of this yet, because we haven't although we have added in touch, we haven't made a timer for it to move left or right. So we're gonna click stop, and let's get running. So now what we're gonna do is add in a new method. So we're gonna go to our view control.h, and we're gonna add in a hyphen open bracket void close bracket player method. I'm gonna declare a timer, so ns timer asterisk player timer. So make sure you remember what you call them, and let's go and simply copy and paste this into our view controller.h and find a spot that it is free in. So I'm pasting mine just right above my collision method. So now if I'm gonna tell you how it goes, it is that once we tap the game to start, this method will be using the player move integer, and it will apply that to our frame. So it will sound much easier once I do it. So let's go back to our touches began and make sure we did everything correctly. So touches began is all good, because this is the crucial moment. Okay, so now that it's done well, let's add in our timer. So move player timer equals ns timer space scheduled timer with timer interval. Go to the third option that says targets non-null selector. And now this is going to say 0.05 target is self, selector is at selector, and now we called ours player method. So player method user info nil repeats yes, and obviously end up with a bracket and a semicolon. So now we're gonna apply the integer to our method over here. So let's type it in now. So let's do simply player dot center dot x. So player dot center dot x equals cg point make player dot center dot x plus what was it called, player move player dot center dot y and close bracket and a semicolon. Now obviously we're not done yet. We still need to do if statements for the border, but let's run it and see how it goes so far. So click play, click the simulator, and let's see so far our product. So we can move left or right, and we can let me try that. We can hit the ball, but the problem now is once we can go straight off the screen. So what we want to do is we want to add in a border left and right. So once it hits the screen, it won't do this issue over here. So let's quickly go back into Xcode to continue. So far we have set up our ball to move, our computer has moved, and our player is also moving, and we can hit our ball to go left or right. So now let's simply go and add in our borders. So let's go back to our main.storyboard to continue. And here we're gonna add in a image view left or right. So these are invisible image views, but they will serve as barriers to our player, so that they don't, as I said before, they don't move straight off the screen like what happened earlier just now. So look for an image view. So go over here and type in image view, and we're gonna drag in this image view over here. We're gonna drag that in, and we're gonna put it to just probably right about here. So this is border left, and the right will be border right. So drag that over here, and now we are gonna declare an IB outlets for these two image views. So go over to our view controller.h, and we're gonna do IB outlet space UI image view asterisk border left, and do IB outlet UI image view asterisk border right. So now that we have declared an IB outlet UI image view for those two, let's link them up. So let me drag this up. It's kind of small. So click on the top so it's highlighted blue, and we're gonna go to connection inspector, which is the very right, this little arrow tab. I'm gonna drag border left to the left, border right to the very right. Now we're gonna go to our player method, which we did earlier. So player method, look for that, and we're gonna do if cg rect intersects rect player.frame, and we're gonna do border left.frame first, and this will do player move equals 0. Now player move is the integer that we are using for the player to move around. So copy and paste that, and this time it is going to say border right. So like that. Now we're gonna go over back to our touches began, and this is the very last thing we need to do. We're almost done, and we just need to add in 2 more if statements, and let's go over here and do, wait, let me go over here. If cg rect intersects rect, and this will say border right.frame and player.frame. Now they're gonna add in 2 if statements. So we're gonna do bracket over here and do and bracket point dot x. Let me make sure that I type that in correctly. Point dot x. Now this time you need to make sure your brackets are completely fine, or else Xcode will give you an error. Less than 293. So now what we're saying here is if our point.x is less than a certain point, and our border right is colliding with our player, it will say player move to 0. And I'm gonna do one more if statement, and this time it is if cg rect intersects rect border left the frame player.frame. Now this time and point.x is greater than 391. Now there will be some stuff we might need to fix later on, but let's simply add in player move equals 0. So now let's try and see how it goes. We might need to change a few we might need to swap these around depending on what depending on how it goes, but again, it's trial and error for programming, and let's try. Let's rock. So as you can see, might need to switch around these two because it's kind of actually no, there is no need to do it right now. So far it's going good. Once we cannot go off the screen anymore, and pretty much that's good so far. Now the problem here is that we if you're touching, it's not going left, so we have to click here to move left. So let's fix that error right now. So if we go right, and if we tap here, so let's go over here, and we might need to change this. So if point.x is less than 293, so we might need to go over here and measure it up. So if it's less than 171, so let's go to vcontrol.m and replace that with 171. Now these numbers I got when I was making the Pong game landscape view, so if it's portrait stuff might seem a little bit different. So let's see how it goes right now. So far so good. We have fixed the error, and when we tap left, it is doing really well. So obviously now that is Pong level this is Pong part 2 finished. So all we need to do now is set up our high score, our score, and our start screen. So let's set up our start screen now, just before we conclude this video. So the Pong game is doing very well. Obviously, if you have ever played Pong before, this is how it goes. So let's go back to our main storyboard. So let's click stop and let's go to our main storyboard, and we're going to set up our start screen. Because if you have noticed, when we click the play button, it kind of just goes straight into the game scene. Now we want a menu scene before we get taken into this game. So let's drag in a view controller. Just this one over here. Drag that into the left, and we're gonna click on it. So click on it so it's highlighted black, and we're gonna go to our fourth tab, and the background is gonna be set to black, just to stick with our theme, like in the actual game itself. Now we're gonna go over here and we're gonna untick. So let me drag that down. We're going to untick is initial view controller. And now we're going to go to the left view controller, and we're going to tick is initial view controller. Now, what we have done is that once we click the play button, it will take us straight into this main storyboard instead of this one. So that is why we have unticked is initial view controller here, and then we have ticked is initial view controller for the left main storyboard. Now let's drag in a label. And again, I know it doesn't look as good, but I'm making this video just to simply teach you the basics on how to make Pong. But if you were to submit this on the App Store, you would probably make this look a little better. But since I'm making this for YouTube, I don't really need to emphasize much on the design. So Pong, I can name this Pong. I can drag in a start button over here. So play. I typed that in wrongly. So play game, and resize that so that it will fit. And we want this to be kind of big enough so we want this to be big enough so that our player can tap on it, so it's not really a pain in the ass to deal with. And let's go over here and control click and drag, and let's select modal. So now we have successfully did so that once we click this play button, it will take us straight into the second view. So let's click play, and let's see our product so far. So build succeeded. Now we click play game. We are taken straight into the game scene, and again we can play as usual. So the game though, let's click hit the ball and see the physics. Alright. So our computer, as you see, it is moving left and right depending on the ball's location, and if we try to move off the screen, it is no longer possible. So that is Pong part 2 finished, and let's click stop and let's review the code. So yeah, this is part 2 finished. So keep staying tuned for part 3, and in part 3 we'll be setting up our high score and everything else. So thank you all for watching. And I will see you guys in part 3. As I said before, stay tuned. And Fruit Catcher is going to be concluded in the next episode. And also, be sure to check out my apps in the App Store. I have there in the description below. I have submitted a few apps in the App Store already, and you guys can check it out. So, see you guys next time.